was chaos that night in Los Angeles. The footage that surfaced shook the whole internet. Kwando Rondo screaming for help, his cousin's lifeless body being pulled out of a bullet-riddled car, and police sirens echoing through the gas station lot. You can see the panic all over Kwando's face, his arms flailing, his voice breaking, his mind struggling to make sense of what just went down. That was the moment his world split in half. It all happened on August 19th, 2022. 5 masked men rolled up on Quando and his homie Lul Pab while they were parked at a gas station.
Right now, the search is on for 3 people who police say shot at a Savannah rapper, killing a member of his entourage. It happened in Los Angeles, and cameras captured the aftermath.
The air was still when the first shots rang out. Then in seconds, it turned into pure war. Quando ducked low, trying to hide behind the car door as bullets flew in every direction. By some wild twist of fate, he walked away untouched. But Pab, his cousin and closest friend, wasn't that lucky. He was hit multiple times before the car even rolled to a stop. The moment police pulled his body from that vehicle, you could see Quando's whole soul leave his body. He screamed, collapsed, and everything after that felt unreal. Pab, whose real name was Lul Pab, wasn't just some random guy in the wrong place. He was a known name around Georgia. Some called him Bandit Pablo. To the streets, he was feared. To his people, he was loyal. But the thing that haunts this story is that he was killed 1 week before he was supposed to face trial on heavy federal charges. We're not talking small-time trouble. The man was looking at racketeering and RICO charges from a 2019 case involving burglary, stolen cars, and organized crime. That means the feds had him tied to a full-on crime ring with 10 others. And now, just days before his court date, he's gone, executed in broad daylight. You can see why this got people whispering. The streets started buzzing immediately. Everyone wanted to know who set this up. At first, nobody knew for sure. Maybe it was a hit for something Pab did in the past, or maybe it was a setup meant for Quando. But once the federal indictments dropped and new evidence surfaced, the picture became a whole lot clearer. Turns out the feds believed this wasn't random at all.
So let's back up, because I know you and Durk was cool. Obviously, he was on your album, and y'all was cool, and you was cool with Vaughn. So that night when you was in the parking lot, what led up to you even being in the parking lot?
They say a crew out of Chicago had flown to Los Angeles with a deadly mission: kill Kwando Rondo in retaliation for King Von's death. The group was tied to none other than OTF, Only the Family, the crew led by rapper Lil Durk. For years, Durk denied OTF being a gang, calling it just his label and family. But the cops, they weren't buying it. Almost every one of Durk's tracks had references to gang life, and the investigators claimed OTF had a darker side, one that moved like an organized street unit. According to the federal documents, the crew used a credit card belonging to one of their members to book flights from Chicago to LA. They came with fake plates, burner phones, and guns. Everything needed for a professional hit. One of the key names mentioned in the indictment is a guy called Grant, who supposedly orchestrated the whole thing.
Ma'am, from my understanding, I don't want nobody to think I'm chasing clout, bringing their name up and stuff, but at the end of the day, ma'am, it ain't about no clout. I got, man, when people be saying, people chasing clout and stuff, how, man, rich.
He even took a private jet from Miami to Cali to manage the operation personally. The plan was cold and calculated. They'd hit Quando, collect payment, then vanish. After the shooting, the crew allegedly stopped by a burger joint to split the money before flying back to Chicago the same night, ruthless. Meanwhile, Quando was left shattered, his cousin dead beside him, and everyone online guessing who was behind it. For nearly 2 years, it stayed a mystery. People thought it might have been some street beef gone wrong or enemies from Georgia getting revenge, but now the feds claim it was all tied back to Durk and the OTF network, payback for Von. The world didn't know it yet, but the clock was already ticking for Durk. At first, it looked like Durk was untouchable. His music was climbing charts, he'd just been given the key to Chicago, and his criminal record was officially wiped clean. The man was riding high. But behind the scenes, the feds were quietly building their case. Every lyric, every IG post, every suspicious flight, they were tracking it all. Then something changed. Just days before Durk's newest album was supposed to drop, news hit that 5 men from Chicago had been arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. That alone would have been huge, but then reports surfaced saying Durk himself was being tied to the operation. The shockwaves ripped through the industry. How could one of rap's biggest stars be at the center of a revenge killing? Yet the pieces started fitting too perfectly to ignore. See, even before these arrests, fans had been speculating for years that Durk was somehow connected. Social media threads, Reddit deep dives, and YouTube breakdowns all hinted at the same thing.
From my understanding, ma'am, it was a love. I had a relationship with the big bro. Not want to say his name. Not, you feel me? You know what I'm talking about.
cool.
The dude that was on my album.
Okay.
Like, it was all love with us from my understanding.
I've heard you say positive things about him.
Durk and OTF might have been pulling strings behind the scenes. One user even traced credit card records and Instagram locations, lining up the travel of OTF members to the exact dates of the shooting. The internet basically built the prosecution's case before the cops ever went public. What really got people's attention, though, was Durk's behavior. Right after the shooting, his songs and interviews started sounding different, more cryptic, more personal. Some fans caught on fast, saying he's confessing in plain sight, but most brushed it off as just art. Now, it's looking like those lyrics might come back to haunt him. Before all this blew up, Durk was unstoppable, a man reborn after years of dodging the law. But when the feds swooped in, the illusion cracked. They weren't just charging him with words, they had evidence, and allegedly, they had a snitch from inside OTF feeding them info. Someone close to Durk was wearing a wire, recording conversations, collecting proof, and watching everything unravel from the inside. The timing couldn't have been worse for Durk. He'd just celebrated freedom, peace, and success, only for it to all crumble right back into the same darkness he'd tried to leave behind.
Dude never charged me for a feature, none of that, knowing he could have. Like, I looked at it, I'm like, this the big bro. Like, big bro, a legend. Like, this how all the young rappers coming up in the game looking at him like, been listening to him since I've been 12.
Now fans are left asking the big question. Did the man who made it out of Chicago's blood-stained trenches just get pulled right back in by his own past? By the time the feds closed in, whispers had already started spreading through the streets. Durk got snitched on. People couldn't believe it, but the more they looked into it, the clearer it became. The man who supposedly betrayed Lil Durk wasn't just anybody, it was one of his own, someone from deep inside his circle. OTF Jam and what came out next flipped the whole story upside down. According to multiple reports, OTF Jam had been working with law enforcement for over 12 years, secretly wearing a wire and feeding the feds information about Lil Durk, OTF, and their associates.
So I'm letting this group come by. Next thing you know, it hit me. You feel me? Boom, bam. Man, like, I lie to you not, man. I lie to you not. Like, it's like I had an out-of-body experience.
Imagine that. 12 years of sitting in rooms, nodding like everything was good, while recording every single move and word. People said Jam had been locked up on an attempted murder charge back in 2010, served 12 years, and was released around the same time Quando and Lul Pab were ambushed in LA. That timing wasn't lost on anyone. It was too perfect. The internet went wild when they connected the dots. Not long after getting out of prison, Jam dropped a track called Federal Freestyle. And get this, it was released on Durk's official YouTube channel. Fans started calling it the biggest red flag ever. The comment section turned into a war zone. People joked things like, Jam, turn your wire up, this my song, and came home wearing a wire and still made a track. Nasty work. The irony was too much. The man everyone thought was loyal turned out to be the Fed's best friend. Then more voices chimed in. King Yella, another Chicago rapper, claimed he'd heard firsthand that OTF Jam implicated Durk in the murder of Lul Pab. He said the second any OTF member even mentioned Durk's name, the feds had enough to drag him in. Yella made it clear this wasn't a random arrest or coincidence. Somebody inside had flipped, and Durk had to know it was coming.
I don't know if people still say it. They used to say it, but you also mentioned a song, they'd be like,
Even Whack 100 weighed in during an interview with DJ Vlad, saying he did 12 years, got out, said he kept it real, but eventually he flipped. Whack broke it down. Jam came home, got money, cars, and praise from Durk, but behind closed doors, he was already feeding the feds everything they needed. That's when the public started seeing this for what it was. A long, methodical setup. The FBI had been piecing this together for years, waiting for the perfect time to strike. Every song lyric, every IG post, every phone call, it all added up. They knew about the hit on Lul Pab, the travel patterns, even the fake plates used on the vehicles. They let the smoke settle, then moved in once they were sure nobody could escape. The sad part, just months before, Lil Durk had been talking like a man ready to move on. He told fans he was focused on family, music, and staying out of trouble, but the shadows from his past kept following him.
By the slide from.
The truth is, Durk never really escaped that Chicago energy, not when so many of his closest people were still caught up in the same game. And that's where the story loops back to the King Von situation, because that's the root of everything. To understand why Kwando Rondo was targeted, you have to go back to November 2020, when King Von was gunned down outside a club in Atlanta. That night changed everything for Chicago rap forever. At the start, Von and Quando weren't enemies at all. In fact, there's old footage of them hanging out backstage, laughing and vibing like brothers. They even worked on music together. But once Von got out of jail, things flipped fast. He started showing love to NBA YoungBoy's music, then suddenly switched up, dissing him on live and calling his raps fake. Nobody knew why at first, but word spread that Von had reached out to YoungBoy for a collab, and YoungBoy curved him. That small slight turned into a firestorm. Then came the spark that lit the powder keg. Von posted a picture with Jania, YoungBoy's baby mama. Fans exploded. Even though she said it was just for a song, the internet didn't believe it. YoungBoy clapped back online, posting a photo with the caption, "I'ma have my son your daughter, since you trolling." From there, it turned into full-blown warfare. Von, never one to stay quiet, fired shots back on Twitter. That new y'all got garbage, try again. And even hinted that he had dirt on YoungBoy that could make him not want to claim his kids.
Lil Durk been picked up by the feds. I don't know if he's been charged with nothing. Probably questioning it. They put an OTF in a lot of things. But I heard somebody named OTF Jam. They said they've been calling him a rat. And basically he said, okay, I'm a rat.
It got ugly fast. Then out of nowhere, Quando jumped into it, defending YoungBoy and mocking Von's album sales. That was it. The friendship was done. And from there, it became personal. The night of the tragedy, Von and his crew pulled up to a club in Atlanta. Quando was there too, chilling in a parked SUV, half asleep. Surveillance footage later showed how it went down. Von spots Quando, storms up, and starts swinging. The punches came fast. No warning, no talk, just pure heat. Quando stumbled back, and within seconds, gunfire erupted. His friend Lil Tim, real name Timothy Leaks, jumped out and fired the shots that killed King Von on the spot. The scene was chaos. Bodies on the ground, screaming everywhere, flashing lights filling the street. Right after that, everything changed. Lil Tim was arrested and charged with murder, but eventually got released, claiming self-defense. That verdict set the internet on fire. King Von's camp was furious. His ex even tweeted that the police, not Tim, were responsible, trying to make sense of something that just didn't sit right.
Yo, watch this. Watch this. That all this information that I know. Rat this, I'm gonna tell this, I'm gonna tell that. My video earlier, I told y'all, man, if somebody say Durk's name, that's all it's gonna take to say that man's name. And obviously, like I said earlier too, if they come at that.
Meanwhile, Quando tried to defend himself in interviews, saying he never meant for any of it to happen. He sat down with Angela Yee and spoke his truth, saying he was cool with both Von and Durk, that he didn't even want beef. "Big bro never charged me for a feature," he said, showing respect, but it didn't matter anymore. The streets don't forget. Von was gone, and Durk's whole circle wanted revenge. Fans now see it like this. What happened to Lul Pab was payback for King Von's death. Everything came full circle. And whether or not Durk ordered it himself, the feds believe he was deep enough in it to be responsible. His crew moved like soldiers, coordinated, equipped, and fearless. But that same precision that made them powerful also made them traceable. Every step left a digital footprint, every plan left a clue. Now Durk's sitting in the middle of it all, his music career at its peak, his legal troubles mounting, and the public divided. Some fans scream he's innocent, others swear he's guilty.
Somebody's telling, somebody from OTF, somebody OTF affiliated, somebody that know enough information on Lil Durk and his crew. And it's messed up. That's why I'll be saying, I don't care how much money you got, what's going on, man, these people will throw you under the bus.
But one thing's clear, this isn't just rap beef anymore. This is federal. When King Von died, it was more than a personal loss for Lil Durk. It was a declaration of war. The streets of Chicago and Atlanta buzzed with tension. People whispered that Durk would slide for Von, meaning revenge was coming. But nobody knew when or how. That's why when Lul Pab got gunned down beside Kwando Rondo, fans didn't see it as random. They saw it as payback, cold and direct. And now, with all the charges, wiretaps, and arrests, it looks like the feds see it that way too. But this wasn't the first time Durk's name had been wrapped up in bloodshed. His connection with Von ran deep, both personally and criminally. Back in 2019, long before Von's death, the two were arrested together for a shooting in Atlanta. It happened outside a restaurant called The Varsity. According to prosecutors, the victim, Alexander Witherspoon, got ambushed. His Jeep, $30,000 cash and jewelry stolen. The man was shot in the leg but survived to tell the story. The shocking part? Prosecutors said there was video footage showing Durk pulling the trigger. In court, the state argued that both Durk and Von were working together as part of a gang-related robbery. Chicago's reputation followed them everywhere.
Maybe Durk felt it already. He felt that it was coming. It was something coming. He knew something was coming. You know how he knew something coming? Because everybody kept saying he's trying to dodge that Rico. Everybody been saying this. So if everybody else knew it, you think he wasn't in his head? Mama Duck suing him. Everybody.
So much that Atlanta authorities even flew in a police chief from Chicago to testify about their alleged gang activity. The charges were heavy: attempted murder, aggravated assault, robbery, and gang participation. It was looking bad, but somehow they both got lucky. Durk's lawyer argued that you couldn't clearly see his face in the footage, and Von's team backed it up. In the end, both men walked out, and Durk even turned the whole experience into a song. But while the world thought it was over, the feds were taking notes. Every case, every file, every time Durk's name appeared in connection with gun violence, it was stacking up behind the scenes. Then came FBG Duck's murder, another brutal hit that shocked Chicago. Duck wasn't just another rapper. He was a rival from the opposite side of the war, part of the Gangster Disciples, while Durk and Von were known to roll with the Black Disciples. Those two gangs had been at odds for decades. But when Duck was murdered in August 2020, right after Von's death, it set off alarms all over again. Duck was shot dead on Chicago's Gold Coast, one of the richest, most secure areas in the city. The shooting happened right outside a Dolce & Gabbana store in broad daylight. He was with his girlfriend and a friend when the shooters jumped out of two cars and opened fire. Both of his companions got hit too. It was a hit that looked way too organized for random street beef. And just like with Lul Pab, people whispered that it had OTF fingerprints all over it. Then Duck's mother filed a lawsuit, accusing Durk and Von of being behind her son's death. She didn't just go after them personally. She went after their estates, labels, and businesses. That lawsuit reignited old wounds and dragged Durk's name back into the headlines right when he was trying to move past it.
He said his chain was snatched off his neck, and he had $30,000 stolen from him, and they stole the vehicle he was driving.
It painted a picture of Durk as someone who'd been orchestrating retaliation from the shadows. Not just one murder, but possibly several connected hits. For the feds, this all tied into a bigger pattern. Every time there was a killing linked to Chicago gang culture, Durk's name somehow floated around it, whether in a lyric, a location tag, or a rumored text. Even if he wasn't pulling triggers himself, he was allegedly calling shots through his influence, his money, and his loyalty to OTF. And when you look at King Von's background, it only gets darker. Before fame, Von was already knee-deep in Chicago's gang wars. He'd been accused of multiple murders, robberies, and shootings, some that allegedly matched the stories told in his own songs. Fans called him real for his lyrics, but detectives called it evidence in disguise.
You see Mr. Banks' arm out the window firing several shots at the victim, towards the victim.
Many even labeled him rap's first serial killer, saying he used music to confess in plain sight. Von's reputation made him both feared and famous, and Durk rode that wave right alongside him. Von's first big case came when he was just 16 years old, locked up for armed robbery. From there, it was a blur of violence and arrests. Every time he came home, another shooting followed. The legend of King Von wasn't built just from his music, it was built from his street history. By the time he got signed under OTF, his name was already buzzing across Chicago as someone you didn't cross. When he was killed in Atlanta, it hit Durk harder than anyone realized. These weren't just artists, they were family, bonded by years of survival. Durk started dropping more emotional tracks, but the pain came out mixed with anger and revenge. That's when people started noticing the shift, the coded lyrics, the subtle threats, the energy that said, "This isn't over." But it was exactly that energy that pulled him back into the storm, because now, every single thing from his past is catching up with him.
Yo, Durk, yo. I'm reacting to the new song, bro. It's really good.
You like it?
Really, really good, bro. I have a question, though.
Yeah.
Those old cases, those coincidental murders, those lyrics about sliding and missions in Cali, they all look different now under the FBI's spotlight. What used to sound like rap bravado now sounds like confessions. And the scariest part, they've got someone on tape, the informant inside OTF, wearing a wire through all of it. Fans are split in two right now. Some still defend Durk like a hero, saying he's being targeted because of his fame. Others say the truth is finally coming out, that fame can't protect him from the past. Even in interviews before the arrest, Durk hinted that he'd been in and out of jail too many times. He told streamer Aiden Ross on Live that he'd done time for things he couldn't even talk about.
Like, how many times, though, bro?
How many months I was up there?
Yeah, nah, bro. I love the song, though, bro. I'm really happy you dropped this. It's very good. I'm gonna add it to my music for sure.
Man, I appreciate we've been locked in.
Yeah. Well, I'll chop it up with you later, bro.
I love.
All right, love.
But he was trying to change. He looked like a man who wanted peace. But peace don't come easy when you've lived your life surrounded by violence. Now, with the feds building a case that ties together multiple murders, conspiracies, and gang operations, Durk's freedom hangs by a thread. The same streets that made him are now trying to destroy him. From the varsity shooting to Lul Pab's murder and the FBG Duck case, everything connects in one long line of revenge, betrayal, and blood. He once rapped about surviving what others couldn't, about being untouchable. But in 2025, those lyrics sound more like warnings than flexes. The evidence is piling up, and the man who once symbolized triumph over the streets is now staring down the possibility of losing it all. Lil Durk's story started with loyalty, music, and pain, but it might end in handcuffs, because when the streets and the system both turn their eyes on you, there's nowhere left to hide.